Hello everyone, Dr. William Chen here. I'm so glad you're with me today, because we're about to uncover something that surprises a lot of people. There is one fruit that many people overlook, some even avoid because it tastes sweet, and yet science keeps pointing to it as one of the most powerful foods you can add to your routine if you want to support your body's natural defenses. And here's the shocking part. The very thing that scares people away from this fruit is the same thing that makes them miss the bigger truth. You've probably heard a claim like this before. If something is sweet, it must be bad for you. If it contains sugar, it should be avoided. And when people hear the words cancer prevention, they often become even more fearful. They start thinking they need to remove every sweet-tasting food from their plate. But health is not that simple, and science is not that simplistic. In fact, some of the most beneficial whole foods in nature are naturally sweet, rich in fiber, packed with protective compounds, and deeply supportive of the systems in your body that matter most. Today, I want to talk about one of those foods. One fruit. Small, beautiful, easy to eat, easy to find, and far more powerful than most people realize. It is not exotic, it is not expensive, compared with many trendy superfoods. It is not a miracle cure, and I'm not here to sell you fantasy. I'm here to show you why this fruit deserves a permanent place in a smarter, more science-based conversation about health. That fruit is the blueberry. Yes, the blueberry. Tiny, sweet, ordinary at first glance. But when you look beneath the surface, you find a remarkable package of fiber, plant pigments, and bioactive compounds that researchers have been studying for years. And what makes blueberries so interesting is not just that they taste good, it's that they appear to influence many of the same biological pathways that matter in long-term disease risk: inflammation, oxidative stress, immune signaling, and the health of the environment inside your body. Now, before we go any further, let me be very clear. No single food cures cancer. No honest doctor should tell you that one fruit can replace treatment, outsmart biology, or make you invincible. But that does not mean food is powerless. It means food works differently than hype. Food shapes terrain. Food affects the internal environment, where health and disease unfold. Food can support your metabolism, your immune system, your gut, your inflammatory balance, and your overall resilience. That is a very different message from magic, and in my opinion, it is a far more empowering one. So why blueberries? Why are doctors and researchers so interested in them? Why not just say, eat more fruit, and leave it at that? The answer is that while many fruits are beneficial, blueberries have attracted special attention because of their unusually rich concentration of plant compounds, especially anthocyanins, the natural pigments that give them their deep blue color. Those pigments are not just there to make blueberries pretty. They are biologically active. They interact with cell signaling, antioxidant defense, inflammation pathways, and even the communication between your gut microbes and the rest of your body. And that's where the story gets exciting, because once you understand what these compounds actually do, you stop seeing blueberries as a dessert ingredient and start seeing them as information. Nutritional information, biological information, a signal to your body that can help support repair, defense, and balance. Let's start with one of the biggest misunderstandings in nutrition. People hear that cancer cells can use glucose, and then they jump to the idea that sweet fruit must be dangerous. But that logic skips over something critically important. Your healthy cells use glucose too. Your brain uses it. Your muscles use it. Your immune cells use it. Your body is designed to regulate fuel in a sophisticated way. The real question is not whether a food tastes sweet. The real question is, what comes with that sweetness? When you eat candy, syrup, or sugary processed snacks, you're mainly getting rapidly absorbed sugar with little protective value. But when you eat a whole blueberry, you're not just eating sweetness. You're getting fiber. You're getting polyphenols. You're getting a complex food matrix that affects digestion, absorption, gut health, and cellular signaling. That is a completely different metabolic event. This is exactly where so many people get misled. They compare fruit to junk food because both can taste sweet. But sweetness is not the whole story. Biology cares about context. A blueberry is not a spoonful of refined sugar. It arrives with compounds that help slow absorption, nourish beneficial gut microbes, and support the body's own protective systems. So if you judge food by taste alone, you miss the deeper science. And the deeper science matters. Researchers looking at berry consumption have described several ways berries may help protect the body. In laboratory and animal studies, berry compounds have been linked to lower inflammation, stronger antioxidant defenses, reduced activity in pathways that help abnormal cells survive, and less support for the formation of blood vessels that tumors can use to grow. Some studies also suggest effects on cell cycle regulation and the self-destruction of damaged or abnormal cells. That does not mean blueberries are a treatment. It means they are biologically active in ways worth paying attention to. What I love about this conversation is that it shifts us away from fear and towards strategy. Instead of asking, "What sweet food should I be afraid of?" we ask, "What whole foods can help create a healthier internal environment?" That is a smarter question. That is a more useful question. And when you start asking better questions, you start making better decisions. Blueberries are rich in anthocyanins, but they don't stop there. They also contain phenolic acids, flavonols, flavonthiols, and tannin-related compounds that researchers believe may contribute to their health effects. Some of these compounds appear to increase antioxidant and anti-inflammatory defenses. Some influence gene expression and cell signaling. Some seem to affect how abnormal cells grow, spread, or respond to internal control systems. Others may be transformed by the gut microbiome into compounds with their own biological activity. Think about that for a moment. You eat a simple fruit, and inside your body it becomes part of a much larger network. Digestion, microbial metabolism, immune communication, cellular defense. That is why whole foods matter so much. Their power is often not in one isolated ingredient, but in the orchestra they create. Now let's talk about inflammation, because this is one of the most important concepts in modern health. Inflammation is not automatically bad. It is part of healing. It is part of defense. But when inflammation becomes chronic, uncontrolled or excessive, it can help create an environment where many diseases become more likely. That includes the kinds of biological changes researchers worry about in cancer development. This is one reason diets rich in whole plant foods have attracted so much attention. Blueberries, like other berries, have been studied for their ability to influence inflammatory signaling. In cell and animal research, compounds in blueberries have been associated with changes in pathways tied to inflammatory stress. This doesn't mean if you eat a bowl of blueberries today, all inflammation disappears tomorrow. But over time, patterns matter. Repeated food choices shape repeated biological signals, and that is where everyday eating becomes powerful. Then there is oxidative stress. You may have heard this term before, but let me make it simple. Oxidative stress happens when damaging molecules build up faster than the body can neutralize them. Over time, that can contribute to wear and tear at the cellular level, including damage that affects DNA and normal cell behavior. Antioxidant-rich foods help support the body's defense systems against that damage. Blueberries are well known for this reason. But again, the real magic is not in a marketing word like antioxidants. It is in how the compounds in the fruit participate in a living biological system. Another fascinating area is the gut microbiome. This is huge. Many people still think of digestion as just breaking down food, absorbing calories, and moving on. But your gut is more like an ecosystem. The microbes living there help process components of food, produce signaling molecules, interact with your immune system, and influence inflammation throughout the body. The fiber and polyphenols in blueberries may help support a more favorable microbial environment, and that matters because gut health is not separate from whole body health. It is one of its foundations. And here is where blueberries become even more impressive. Some of the compounds in berries are not fully absorbed right away. Instead, they travel deeper into the digestive tract, where gut microbes act on them and create new metabolites. Those metabolites may then contribute to protective effects of their own. So the benefit of blueberries is not just what is in the berry when you swallow it, it is also what your body and your microbiome do with it afterward. That's why I want people to stop thinking in such a narrow way about food. Food is not merely calories. Food is not only sweetness, fat, protein, or carbs. Food is a message. Food is a set of instructions. Some foods give the body chaos, some foods give the body support, and whole blueberries belong much closer to the support side of that equation. Now, do we have perfect human proof that blueberries alone prevent cancer? No. And this is where honesty matters. Much of the strongest mechanistic evidence comes from lab and animal work, where researchers can isolate pathways and study them closely. Human evidence is promising but still developing. That means the right message is not exaggerated certainty. The right message is that blueberries are one of the most evidence-supported fruits you can include as part of an overall plant-forward, whole-food eating pattern associated with lower disease risk. That larger eating pattern is important. Major cancer prevention guidance emphasizes diets built around vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, and other minimally processed plant foods. Not because one ingredient is magical, but because the pattern works. Whole fruits show up again and again in that pattern, and experts specifically favor whole foods over supplements when the goal is long-term health support. In other words, the body seems to respond better to foods in their natural matrix than to isolated promises in a bottle. This matters because many people are still looking for shortcuts. They want the pill instead of the plate, the powder instead of the produce, the headline instead of the habit. But health usually rewards consistency more than intensity. A handful of blueberries every day may not feel dramatic, but over months and years, repeated protective choices can matter far more than occasional extreme behavior. And blueberries make consistency easier because they are practical. You do not need to learn a complicated recipe. You do not need a special season. You do not need a luxury budget. Fresh blueberries are great. Frozen blueberries are also excellent, and still rich in beneficial compounds. In fact, one of the best things about blueberries is how easy they are to keep around. That means fewer excuses and more follow-through. Let me tell you something important about frozen fruit, because people often underestimate it. Frozen blueberries can be a fantastic option. They are usually picked at the right stage of ripeness and preserved quickly. That makes them convenient, affordable, and available year-round. If you are someone who buys fresh produce with good intentions and then throws it away a week later, frozen blueberries may be your best friend. What matters most is not whether the berry looks Instagram perfect. What matters is whether it actually becomes part of your life. So how should you eat them? The answer is simpler than most people expect. Add them to oatmeal. Mix them into plain yogurt. Blend them into a smoothie, with no need to turn it into a sugar bomb. Sprinkle them onto a high-fiber breakfast. Add them to a bowl of nuts and seeds. Eat them on their own. Pair them with other fruits. The goal is not to make blueberries your entire personality. The goal is to normalize them. If you want a simple rhythm, think in terms of a regular serving most days of the week. You do not need to obsess over perfection. You do not need to panic if you miss a day. But if you currently eat almost no berries, moving to a steady pattern of intake could be a meaningful upgrade. Small choices, repeated often, create the foundation of better health. And here is another reason blueberries are so powerful in the real world. They can help replace worse options. When people keep blueberries visible and ready to eat, they are less likely to reach for ultra-processed sweets, packaged desserts, or mindless snack foods. That substitution effect matters. Sometimes a healthy food helps you not only because of what it gives you, but because of what it helps crowd out. Now I know some people are listening and thinking, but Dr. Chen, if blueberries are sweet, what if I'm worried about blood sugar? That is a fair question. The answer is to look at the whole picture. Whole blueberries come with fiber and a very different nutritional profile than refined sugary foods. Portion, overall meal context, and the rest of your diet matter. For many people, including blueberries as part of a balanced meal pattern is entirely reasonable. If you have a specific medical condition, you should personalize with your own clinician. But fear alone should not drive you away from one of the most nutrient-dense fruits available. There is also a psychological side to this conversation that we do not talk about enough. Fear-based nutrition makes people miserable. It teaches them to distrust food, to label whole ingredients as enemies, and to live in constant confusion. But wisdom-based nutrition is different. It helps people understand trade-offs. It teaches them context. It gives them tools they can actually use. And when it comes to blueberries, the wise view is this. Yes, They are sweet. Yes, they contain natural sugars. And yes, they can still be one of the smartest foods you eat. That should be liberating for people. Because once you understand that a food can taste good and still support health, you begin to escape the prison of false choices. You stop believing that pleasure and protection must live on opposite sides of the table. You stop treating every naturally sweet food like a threat, and you start building a way of eating that is realistic, sustainable, and grounded in evidence rather than fear. I also want to say something about variety. Blueberries are excellent, but they work best as part of a broader pattern that includes other berries, colorful fruits, vegetables, legumes, whole grains, nuts, seeds, and healthy lifestyle habits. Sleep matters, exercise matters, body composition matters, smoking matters, alcohol matters, stress matters. Food is powerful, but it is not isolated from the rest of life. The strongest strategy is to let one good habit reinforce another. Still, within that broader pattern, blueberries earn their spotlight. Their deep color is a clue. Their plant compounds are a clue. Their research profile is a clue. Their convenience is a clue. And their ability to fit into almost any routine makes them one of those rare health foods that is both scientifically interesting and practically useful. In a world full of nutrition noise, that combination is gold. Let me bring this back to what really matters. If you want to support your body's natural defenses, don't spend all your time asking what to eliminate out of fear. Spend more time asking what to include on purpose. That shift alone can change your health trajectory. Instead of building your diet around restriction, build it around intelligent nourishment. Instead of obsessing over what sounds scary, focus on what repeatedly shows up in evidence-based eating patterns. And blueberries show up for a reason. They show up because they are rich in compounds that scientists continue to study for their roles in antioxidant defense, inflammation balance, cell signaling, and microbial interaction. They show up because whole fruits are consistently part of healthy dietary patterns linked with lower disease risk. They show up because, unlike so many overhyped products, they are accessible, familiar, and easy to actually eat. And perhaps most importantly, they show up because they remind us of a bigger truth. Sometimes the healthiest choices are not the most dramatic ones. They are the repeatable ones, the humble ones. The ones that fit quietly into breakfast, lunch, and snack time while doing their work behind the scenes. So if you have been avoiding fruit because you were taught to fear sweetness, let this be your wake-up call. Not all sweetness is the same. A blueberry is not candy. A whole fruit is not a processed dessert. And one of the smartest things you can do for your long-term health is to learn the difference. If your kitchen is missing blueberries right now, maybe that is the change to make this week. Buy them fresh. Buy them frozen. Put them where you can see them. Make them easy. Make them normal. And let that one small choice become part of a larger commitment to feeding your body something better. Because the goal is not perfection. The goal is progress. The goal is not fear. The goal is confidence. The goal is not chasing a miracle. The goal is building an environment inside your body that supports resilience, defense, and healing over time. That is what smart nutrition looks like. And if you remember just one message from today, let it be this. The cancer-fighting fruit doctors want you to eat more often may not be flashy, expensive, or mysterious. It may be sitting in the produce aisle or freezer section right in front of you. Small, blue, sweet, and far more powerful than it looks. Blueberries are not a magic cure, but they are absolutely a meaningful choice. And meaningful choices, repeated consistently, can change everything. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for spending this time with me. I'm Dr. William Chen, and I hope this helped you see food in a smarter, more hopeful, and more powerful way. Stay healthy, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye, and take care.